Hello everyone. We've been battling our way through the crowds of Edinburgh at the moment. It's really busy here. The festival ended yesterday, so I thought it was going to be really quiet, or quieter in Edinburgh, but it's just not. So it's really difficult to find a place to set up which isn't really thronged with people. We've come to Greyfriars, Kirk, so the sort of long way round really, trying to find various places along the way, but it was just too busy. And we've set up our easel here with a slightly different view of the back of Greyfriars Kirk. It's a beautiful kirk. I've always liked the look of it and its colour, the sort of yellowy sort of colour. I've done the drawing and now it's just a question of getting on with it. So what I'm doing is just a little corner of this building. I thought it'd be just a little bit of fun just to have a go at glimpses of a building really, not to try and do a big scene because that's a bit complicated today, just too many people around. So the corner of the building is what it's going to be. So looking carefully at the building, I'm thinking about the colour scheme and the values, and I'm working out what colours to use in my mind. You've got the general yellow, but the stone is quite a grey sort of colour, warm grey. So if we start off with the light sand colour, I think is probably a good idea. So that's pretty much a yellow ochre, a light yellow ochre colour. And we're going to place this into here. Right, let's try and mix a bit more. Okay, so just try and get that in. So one thing, if you notice, I'm not trying to keep in the lines of things. If it goes out the lines, I'm happy about that. I don't really want it to. I don't really want it to be perfect. That's not what watercolour is all about. One of my favourite phrases, I don't know whether I've told you before, it's a phrase I've had for a few years and it's helped me a great deal. And it's this: there's nothing interesting in perfection. And that is such a thought-provoking idea. And I think so true as well. When things are perfect, they may not be that interesting. So as you see, just pop it down and see how it goes. Right, now I'm going to go for the darker shades. So I'm going to work everywhere in this painting all the time. So now I'm going to go for my two favourite colours, which is burnt umber and ultramarine blue. So it's a bit hard there. And then ultramarine blue. And you can make this colour, so you can make it a warm shade, a cool shade, all sorts of different shades. That's why it's so versatile, almost like a Payne's grey, but it's not. It's a bit more versatile, I think, than that. So just trying to find the interesting values. Popping them in. So I'm trying to be loose, always trying to be loose. That's my biggest thing in my painting. I don't want it to be too detailed. I want it to be painterly, I want it to be realistic, but not too detailed. And that's a very difficult combination to achieve, really. It's so easy to fall into one of the camps, i.e. too detailed or too loose. The film is a bit tricky today because we're behind some trees, so the light is changing all the time. It's one of the things about painting outdoors, you never have it exactly the way you want it to. It's always a little bit wrong. Okay, so the building, we've got this here. So I'm looking for the values. So I'm going to paint the bits of it sort of in a bluer tone now, just to contrast with the colour I've got there at the moment. So a little bit of ultramarine blue. The shadows are, the light's changing so much. A moment ago the building was in full shadow, full sunshine, not anymore. So there's that nice sort of think speed is quite an important part with watercolour painting. You don't want to be too slow. You don't want it to dry out too much, really. There is definitely a certain pace with watercolour painting. Trying to change the colour as much as I can as well. I always love changing the colour of things. I think that's fun. It's drying very quickly as well. So I'm really trying a value study here at the moment, just trying to block in as much as I can. Applying the paint as interestingly as I can. I think a lot of watercolour painting really is mark making. I think people can get confused with colour a great deal, but colour isn't my biggest concern. Mark making is. That's quite fun. You see, it's changed, or it's varied. It's not just a flat image, flat values. Okay. Trying to get this. Hinting is the most important part in watercolour. You really don't want to go into endless detail, and I love the art of hinting. Almost like a magic trick. Working as fast as you can. You have to work fast in these situations because everything's going to change, and when things change it's a different picture. So you always have the urgency to get it down as fast as you possibly can. And I think that's an important point to remember as well. When you're trying to get things down fast, you become more decisive, and watercolour is a very decisive medium. So just trying to get the base, changing the colour again. That's a raw umber there. Now into the windows. Hope you can tell that you're not hanging around. That's the thing I'm trying to get across at the moment. You're not hanging around with watercolour. You're going to make mistakes. That's part of it. Quite a strong wind here today as well, so that's drying the paint off even quicker. So, trying to get the shadows into this section here now. That's quite fun. So that was an accident there with the blue, but that's fine. I don't mind that. I like a good accident's worth a lot of good strokes. Again, the pace of it. Quite like that blue mark, and I'm not going to touch it. And I think that's a really important point to. I think one of the most important points as an artist is to recognise when something's gone right, and it's something I'm always struggling to do, and always working at to work out whether I've done something that's good. And if I can recognise it's good, then I'll leave it. Right. Raw umber is a good colour today. Okay. You can hear in the background the school's out now. Hundreds of children from George Heriot's school coming out. It needs a bit of variation in the yellow now, which I'm going to add. I think that's quite important. It's too plain at the moment. Yeah, it's better. Trying to make it a little bit richer in those parts. Okay, now we've got the windows. They're quite a dark colour. It's a very much a dark grey. So my favourite colours again, the burnt umber and raw and ultramarine blue. Okay. So just hinting at things really. You can see it's very impressionistic now. Now to the other arch. Okay. Trying to be decisive as I can always. These arches are quite tricky, but you have to try and lay them in just once. Painting it just once I think is an important factor to remember. Minimally touching the paper if you can get away with it. Last bit. Trying to get a little bit of the shadow in of the window, the frame of the window. And so it is a complicated shape. It's a tricky shape to do. But buildings are fascinating. They really are. And I think the trick of them is to simplify them in watercolour. You really don't want them to be too complicated. Okay, back into the glass, which is again a blue shade. Different from the other one, much more reflected light on it. Okay. Okay. Back to the roof, slate roof. And then finally back into start the sky again, or not again. Start it. Bit of cobalt blue. Super bright today. Beautiful clouds. Okay, now we've got this beautiful red tree down the side of the building. Really deep colour. Difficulty is going to get this dark enough. Right, just going to get some sort of resolution on the roof a bit. It's always difficult to know how much to put in. So I've just tried to keep it simple. I'm not trying to go into too much detail on this, and the more detail you put in, the more unhappy I'll be with it. So it's just a quick sketch, a little bit of fun, and not finish too much. Let the values sit and speak for themselves. I just might put a few marks on as well. Just with a pencil again. Not too many. I think it just helps add something else to the picture. Okay, there we go. And then just sign it quickly, bottom left. It's an interesting experiment just trying to do one little corner of a building rather than trying to attempt a big scene. Sometimes watercolour is good just for small things. I often feel that the really big scene isn't necessarily what watercolour is all about. It's really more of an intimate sort of process, and I think having a go at a building is a good test for that as well. The test really is trying to keep it simple and not overcomplicating things. And you've got to realise with watercolours that the moment you try and overcomplicate things, then you lose so much of the magic that is watercolour and that beautiful flow of paint. So this painting's 10 by 7 inches on my usual Fabriano Artistico paper. If you're interested in going to the draw for that, that'd be great. And I hope you enjoyed this, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye bye.